Every year, players are drafted after the first round, and every year some of those players make teams that passed on them pay and leave people wondering how they slipped through the cracks in the draft process or how they fell that far to begin with. 2020 will be no different, as some players who were first-round picks will be draft busts, and some players who were taken much later will turn out to be draft day steals. In today's video, we're going to be discussing some players who have serious potential that were taken after the first round. But before we get started, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. The first player who has very high potential is T. Higgins. Higgins finished his collegiate career tied with DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins as the all-time touchdown leader for the University of Clemson. T fell to the second round though, as this was an all-time receiving draft class, and he went to a great landing spot in the Bengals. He is just 21 years old and is a great red zone receiver. His NFL comparison when he left college, ironically enough, was his now teammate AJ Green. Higgins will, whenever COVID is in the rearview mirror, get to see how a true pro like AJ Green works at his craft day in and day out, and get to learn directly from a player very similar to him who has very similar skill sets. He will bring a winning attitude and mentality to the organization, as in Clemson he had a combined record of 41-3. This is all without mentioning Higgins will have a very good quarterback to throw him the football in number 1 overall pick Joe Burrow. T was the first player taken after the first round, and he will prove very soon why he should have been selected in the first round. He will be a draft day steal and the next great Bengals wide receiver. The next player who has serious potential was the Panthers' second-round pick, defensive end Gator Gross-Matos. Gross-Matos had a very interesting draft story to say the least. He was a good pass rusher in college, as he racked up 17.5 sacks and 35 tackles for a loss in his final 2 seasons at Penn State, and was a 2-time first-team All-Big Ten player. He will join a team that has Brian Burns on the roster, and in his rookie season, Burns had 7.5 sacks alone. The Panthers also drafted defensive lineman Derek Brown at number 7 overall, and with those two already rushing the quarterback, this should put Gross-Matos in a prime position to succeed. He will receive a lot of one-on-one opportunities, and will be in a position most players of his caliber wish they could be in early on in his career. The sky truly is the limit for Gross-Matos, and he will prove over the next couple of years why he shouldn't have fell that far in the first place. There were mocks that had him going regularly in the first round, and I think he's going to make the teams that pass on him regret that decision. The next player with serious potential that was drafted after the first round is Colts running back Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is going to a great situation, as he will have the opportunity to run behind both Anthony Costanzo and All-Pro guard Quentin Nelson. If he stays healthy, Quentin Nelson will be a Hall of Famer, and a player of Taylor's caliber running behind a guard of Nelson's caliber translates to great production. Both Taylor and Marlon Mack will make Phillip Rivers' job easier in 2020, and Taylor I feel the most confident in this video, in saying he will be a very productive pick and have multiple 1,000-yard years in Indy. Jonathan will have to work on getting his fumbles down, and I think he will, and when he does, he's going to be a terrific NFL running back. For what it's worth, I think Michael Pittman will be great as well, and could potentially make teams pay. I'm just not including multiple Colts in this video. The next player who can be a star is Brown safety Grant Delpit. Delpit didn't have a great junior year at LSU, as he was entering the 2019 season looking like a potential top 5 pick if everything went according to plan. However, he fell big time, and he went to a great landing spot in Cleveland. They have Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett already on the defense, so to add another big piece like Delpit is huge. The Browns will have a very good secondary with Denzel, safety Carl Joseph, and now Delpit. I hope Greedy Williams can step up in year number 2 as well, because if he does, then they will have a very good young secondary, and they'll need it with receivers like AJ Green, Juju Smith-Schuster, and the young Hollywood Brown in the division to go against 6 times per year. Delpit has a very high ceiling, as we saw what he was capable of in 2018, and if he hits that in the NFL, he will prove to be a steal. The next player who has great potential is Steelers' second-round pick Chase Claypool. Claypool ran an insane 4.42 40 at 238 pounds at the Combine back in February, and he did himself a service and raised his draft stock. He also jumped 40.5 inches on the vertical leap and did 19 bench press reps of 225. The Steelers are known to produce wide receivers, as in the past few decades, they've had Hines Ward, Plaxico Burress, Santonio Holmes, Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, Mike Mike Wallace, and now Juju Smith-Schuster. To think Claypool could come in and be a good receiver his rookie year, especially with those physical intangibles, could soon become a reality, and he could prove teams wrong that they should have drafted him higher than he was. Claypool is a big-bodied receiver by every definition, and Big Ben should have some fun throwing to him before he hangs the cleats up whenever he decides to do that. The next player who has serious potential is new Ravens running back J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins brings a lot to Baltimore, including a 2,000-yard rushing season in college. The Ravens' offense will be virtually unstoppable, as they will have Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, Justice Hill, and now J.K. As if that backfield isn't enough, they'll have Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews to throw the ball to at any given time. Dobbins went to a great landing spot, as he won't be pressured right away to be a franchise running back or expected to carry the ball 20 to 25 times per game, and instead should have a role where he gets maybe 10 to 15 touches per game. The Ravens should again have one of the best running offenses in the NFL. The Ravens' offense in 2020 will be insane, as they'll have a luxury most teams in the history of the league will not have, and that's 3 solid running backs to hand the ball off to at any given time. They can give the ball to Mark Ingram 4 straight times and then let him go take 5 to 6 plays off, while JK or Justice Hill takes the next couple of reps. They can then say this to JK or Justice as well, and can keep all 3 running backs healthy or fresh for most of the game by doing this. If they do that, they will be one of the hardest teams to stop, just like they were in 2019. J.K. Dobbins has the potential to be a Super Bowl champion early and often in his career, and ultimately, for the sake of this video, a draft day steal. The next player with great potential is Jets second-round pick Denzel Mims. Sam Darnold, to put it nicely, hasn't had great weapons in his career so far. Mims will more than likely get a lot of targets in his rookie year because the receiver on the Jets roster at the moment, aside from him and Jamison Crowder, are not that good. Darnold should also have time to throw the ball, as they invested a first-round pick in tackle Mekhi Becton. The Jets are finally giving Darnold pieces to work with after 2 long years of virtually nothing, and Darnold will make general manager Joe Douglas look like a genius with the Mims pick in the second round. Mims was mocked as high as 22 to the Vikings in the first, and the Jets got him 37 picks later at 59th overall, and he should be a good receiver from the start. Mims, from the sheer volume of targets he'll receive alone, should prove to be a productive NFL wide receiver. The next player who has high potential is Bills running back Zach Moss. Zach Moss is a bruising running back at over 220 pounds and will be a very good complement to Devin Singletary. Moss will be the perfect running back for those cold December or even January games in Buffalo when it's cold and no team wants to throw the football. This is when players like Moss thrive, when the ground and pound style takes over, and he will be a good role player from the start. He will be a good short yardage back and should have plenty of opportunity to score. In his final 3 years at Utah, he rushed for over 1,000 yards in every year, along with double-digit touchdowns in all of those seasons. While that type of production shouldn't be expected from him in the pros, he can be a solid running back, and Buffalo is a great fit for a player like Moss. He has high potential and could be a huge fantasy player, as he could score a lot of touchdowns in every year of his NFL career. Now, for the last few minutes of the video, there's going to be a couple of players sporadically from the rest of the draft. A player that could make teams pay is the Vikings' third-round corner Cameron Dantzler. He fell in the draft largely due to running a 4.64 40, and while that's not ideal, not every NFL receiver is Tyreek Hill or John Ross or Henry Ruggs and will leave him in the dust. He will get his chances against players like Devontae Adams and Kenny Golladay, those big-bodied wide receivers that he should fare well against once he gets accustomed to the league. Another player who could prove to be a steal that has high potential is the Cowboys' 4th and 5th round picks. Tyler Biadasz was an absolute steal, and with Travis Frederick retiring, he could see immediate playing time. There, of course, will be competition from Connor McGovern, but if Biadasz sees the field right away and gets to learn from a player next to him by the name of Zach Martin, then he could be in great position for the success of his NFL career. Bradley Anae had no business being on the board until pick 179, and he was a part of what looks to be a great draft class for the Cowboys. He could definitely make other teams regret him staying on the board for as long as he was. The Browns' 6th-round pick Donovan Peoples-Jones has high potential, as he never had a great quarterback throwing him the ball at Michigan and could benefit from an NFL-caliber quarterback in Baker Mayfield. One would have to think Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham aren't going to stay in Cleveland for forever, so with time, Peoples-Jones will get his chances. All of the players in today's video have high potential, and all can prove with time they should have been selected much higher than they originally were. That's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did and are still watching, I appreciate the time out of your day. Please leave a like, it helps a ton, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Skol Vikes.